Are you like trying to mock me? I kind of understand.
Hey yo, here we go. Microphone check. 1 2 1 2. I said microphone check. 1 2. Can't nobody out here do it like me. Ain't nobody out here winning like me. Can't nobody out here do it like me. Just like me, like me. Can't nobody out here do it like me. Ain't nobody out here winning like me. Can't nobody out here do it like me. Just like me, like me.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Ace's Wild Chicago Sports Takes. I am your host, Ace. Tonight, I got my guy Mike with me. I know we're a couple days earlier than we usually run. Usually it's Friday. But I had the opportunity to have somebody who covers the Packers jump on and join us tonight just to kind of set the table for what is hopefully not going to be a complete slaughter of a game. And my guy Kyle is going to be jumping on. He's actually in the green room right now. So, Mike, if you're cool, I'm just going to jump on and bring him in right away.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, cool. Kyle, my man, what's up, buddy?
Fellas, how we doing? Appreciate y'all having me on.
I appreciate you taking time to jump on with us. You know, I just feel like I just seen you a couple weeks ago, and it's nice to see you and talk a little sports. We talked my brother's wedding about, you know, you jumping on for Bears-Packers week, meat and cheese week. Let's just jump right into it, man. There's a lot of chaos right now surrounding the Bears, but something you don't really ever hear of chaos coming from the north up, with the Packers. I want to jump into a lot of questions about Jordan Love and what they're going to do. But first, there was some noise today about players for the Bears that were saying stuff off the record and then coming back on the record and talking about that they never said it and this and that. And you've been in the locker room. You've talked to these guys. I'm curious, is there such thing as an on the record, off the record conversation with some of these players where they say what they got to say on the mic and then they'll tell you something different?
Yeah, totally. That's where you build trust with, players, coaches, whatever, and it goes further beyond the Packers. Like I've had many off the record off the record conversations with coaches, players, whatever, just to have a feel for the team that you're covering. And it's no different in an NFL locker room, man. If you have a guy who you trust or you have a relationship with, once the cameras go down and the microphones go down, you can have a conversation and be like, okay, what's actually happening? And if they have your trust, they can actually tell you. So it's all about relationships in there, man. And it does happen more than you think.
I don't know if you've been paying attention to any of the stuff coming out of Chicago right now, but Bears just fired offensive coordinator Shane Waldron after some pretty pitiful performances by this offense. Now there's rumblings that players are going to coaches about wanting Caleb to be sat and have Tyson Bagent starting. You've been in a locker room with a coach that seems to be pretty in control. What do the Packers and LaFleur do that keeps these guys accountable? Because all I've been hearing about is how, we wanted to be held accountable. We wanted more coaching. We wanted them to coach us harder. And, some people think, well, you guys are making millions of dollars. You're professional athletes. Like, can't you guys hold yourselves accountable? But what is your thought on that?
Yeah, it's just a culture thing, right? And if you start being bigger than the team, then you're going to be held accountable. It's no different than Jair Alexander last year when he went out for the coin flip versus Carolina, because that was his hometown or where he's from, and he wanted to be a captain. And when you start putting yourself higher than what the team is, and it's all about me and not the team, well, you're going to get suspended, that 1-game suspension. And the Packers just did it this year as well. So they hold players definitely accountable, and it's paid dividends to going back to that team aspect. This year, Romeo Doubs, the reports were that he wasn't happy with his role, skips practice, misses it, doesn't let anybody know. He's suspended. So it's the accountability factor that everybody shares in that building, I think. And that precedent was set years before Matt LaFleur ever stepped in. I mean, this is a 20, 30 year, 40 year 100-year existence of the Packers and that accountability being instilled at 1265.
So now let's shift focus. Jordan Love this season, he's thrown for a little over 1,800 yards, 15 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Last year, he had a total of only 11 interceptions throughout the whole season. What are they doing during the bye week to address this? I'm obviously biased one way as a Bears fan, but I watch Packer games because I live in Wisconsin. But I've noticed, it's really boom or bust for him. If his guys aren't going up making plays in triple coverage and some lucky catches or missed opportunities on interceptions, but some of these interceptions look rough, like the one, what was it, not last week, but the week before last, where he was going down and he just throws it into the line, guy pick sixes it. And then the one that was about 4 weeks ago where he threw it when they were on like the 2-yard line, it was a pick six. So what are they kind of doing to try to minimize any damage that he can do with these interceptions?
Well, it's kind of funny you say that because, I mean, Jordan Love himself and Matt LaFleur have said the offense at times feel like it's feast or famine, where they're either getting a lot or not a lot. He just needs to be smarter. I know he's battled 2 different injuries, whether that was week 1 out in Brazil with the knee injury, sprained MCL, or his groin injury that he suffered in Jacksonville. But not that I would say that is the reason why he's making these interceptions, because they're just kind of boneheaded throws at some of the throws that he's had and interceptions. It's just he has to be smarter with the ball. Part of the injury, they haven't been doing a lot of play action, which was a huge reason why he was so successful in the second half of last season. He's been in shotgun a lot more and just not doing a lot of play action. So as they come out of this bye week and they got the Bears this week and into the second half of the season, I wonder since Jordan Love was back at practice in full today for the first time in multiple weeks, if any, the whole season long, a full participant at practice, if they get back in that play action mode and maybe open up the field a little bit more for Jordan.
Mike, I know you had a question about Jordan Love and the health aspect.
I did. Nice to meet you, Kyle, by the way. I don't think we've ever officially met.
Likewise.
So the week before the Lions game where Jordan Love got that injury, and they said,
Jacksonville.
Expect him to miss a few weeks. And then all of a sudden, he's ready to play versus Detroit. And I think he went from like 23 or 39, I think, that game. Did throw a touchdown, threw a pick. Just really didn't look like himself. Really made it look like, did they maybe rush him back a little too fast, where he was still battling through some injuries that might have hindered that play a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, like talking to Jordan in the locker room the week leading up to the Lions game, he said, no matter the opponent, I want to be out there. And it doesn't matter if the Lions, because that was for the first place in the NFC North, really.
Right.
And for him, like, I thought they maybe were going to sit him a week because, look, the recipe for success with Malik Willis they've done it for 3 weeks. Like, they have won with Malik Willis. It's not like you don't know what you're going to get out of your backup. Like LaFleur, and that's a big credit to LaFleur, how he's been able to manage that game plan when Malik Willis was under center. So I thought there was a situation where Malik would get the start versus Detroit, but they wouldn't put their franchise quarterback out there because they have 220 million reasons not to if he wasn't healthy and ready to go. So he's got that bye week already in his backpack now, and he was a full participant today as we record on what day is it? Wednesday?
Yeah,
Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday.
So things are looking up for Jordan, but heading into that Detroit game, I thought that there was a situation where maybe they do give Malik Willis a start because he's won before and the formula is there, but they went with Jordan.
Yeah, my thought on that was, like, maybe they started him knowing that they had the bye week, so if he came out a little more banged up, he was going to have that extra week of rest. Yeah. But you kind of just answered what was going to be my next question. Is he expected to be close to 100% this week then?
Yeah, I mean, if he's a full participant, he was listed on the injury report, for this week, starting the week prep for Chicago, but he was a full participant with his injury designation. So I assume he's going to be 100%, and he's going to get all the practice reps like he did today, the rest of the week, barring no setbacks. So it looks like you're going to get a healthy Jordan Love down there in Chicago.
Oh, great. So, the Bears just got rid of their offensive coordinator, promoted the quarterback's coach. And I'm curious I don't want to act like that's going to be some miracle elixir for the Chicago Bears offense that struggled, got banged up offensive line. But what are the Packers trying to game plan? What are they worried about with this Bears team? I know that, 3 weeks ago, this would have been a completely different conversation with the Bears coming off that game in London against the Jaguars. But now, the Fail Mary against Washington, you get no touchdowns against Arizona, you get blown out by New England. Like, this is a whole different narrative. The narrative has shifted in a short span of 3.5 weeks, where, a lot of people were looking forward to this game as being two second place ish teams in the NFC North battling it out to try to catch up to Detroit. But now it kind of feels almost like old Bears Packer rivalry. Little brother gets beat up by big brother. Is that the mindset up there, or how are they viewing this game?
Yeah, they'll never say that, but they know, at least Matt LaFleur won't say that, but they kind of know that they have the upper hand on Chicago. I mean, they've won 10 straight against Chicago. If the Packers do win on Sunday, it'll be the longest win streak in this long-standing rivalry, dating back, since 1920s. So, when it comes to the Bears, like on offense, it's interesting because this is going to be a big test for Jeff Hafley. I'm not saying that, Chicago does pose a big threat, but he might get some unscouted looks with that change at the OC and, play caller. And so it's going to be interesting to see how Jeff Hafley and Matt LaFleur kind of go throughout the week. And then whatever happens on game day, they just have to be ready for those unscouted looks that they might not see on film because they never ran it before. This is going to be a change of pace on Sunday. I'm intrigued to see this game because I feel like, I don't know how you guys feel. I feel like Caleb's better than what the stats may show. And we'll see what the offense poses. But Green Bay's defense is no joke either. They went into the bye week leading in takeaways. They kind of slowed up a little bit, but that was a product of maybe opposing teams kind of respecting their DBs a little bit more and not chucking it down the field as much.
Yeah, I mean, Mike and I talk a lot about, issues with this franchise as a whole, not even just the offense or defensive side of the ball, but it's no secret the Bears have struggled for years, really almost 40 years now since winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And it's just they've always been kind of odd when it comes to the decision making that they have. I think Caleb is closer to the guy we watched in London versus the Jaguars than he is to the guy we watched last week. I think a lot of the noise that's up at Palace Hall with the Bears is they gave these like a leadership council group to a few players. And while I think in theory it was a good idea to empower players against a coach that has 14 wins in the short amount of time he's been on this team, I feel like you're kind of setting yourself up for a little bit of a messy situation. These guys are being empowered, but record-wise, they have no reason to have that power. You're the head coach. You need to be in there and run your team and get these guys on track. But, like I said, I definitely think Caleb's closer to the guy we watched in London versus the guy from last week. Mike, I'm not sure how you think or feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at too. I think when you already have a really bad offensive line, and then with that offensive line, you have two injuries that happens, mid-game with that bad O-line. I think, the quarterback can only be as good as you allow him to be. And if you're only allowing him, I mean, people keep saying he had 5 seconds to throw. Well, he was running for 3.5 of those seconds. So it's not like he has 5 seconds in the pocket to throw. So I do think he needs to play better, but I also think the Bears need to do a better job at giving him a chance to succeed. I feel like I think I can speak for most Bears fans where it almost feels like we're not allowed to have a good quarterback and the Packers are not allowed to have a bad quarterback because it just seems it always plays out that way.
Right.
And, finally we get excited thinking we have a guy. And, I think you made a good point, Kyle, with the fact that you're getting a new OC. You can look at tape so much, but you might see so much this week that you might not expect it. That might not be on that tape because it's a completely different play caller. So I think that's a good point, and that would be interesting to see as well.
Now, Kyle, my biggest worry personally in this game isn't so much Jordan Love and the passing game. The Bears have been gashed the last 2 weeks with the running game. After last season, they were one of the best teams in football at stopping the run. This year has not been the case. Josh Jacobs has been running the ball very well. Matt LaFleur is so good at coming up with schemes and concepts to get his running backs in the game and get them going through that to open up the pass. What kind of game plan do you see this game being? Is this going to be more of a, we want Jordan Love to go out there and shine in front of Chicago, or are we going to just ground and pound, try to keep Jordan Love clean, give the ball to Josh Jacobs and let him have a day?
I think what you're going to see to start the game is going to be a lot of Josh Jacobs. I think that's kind of part of their identity as much as they might not think it. I mean, when they can get the ball moving on the ground, it just opens up so much more for Jordan Love and make it easier on him. And Josh Jacobs has been a guy that came into this offense and has kind of carried on the legacy that Aaron Jones left when he walked out of the door. I mean, they really haven't skipped a beat in that running back room. Aaron Jones is a huge piece to replace, but Josh Jacobs, he's 4 years younger and damn near the same player. So I think it starts there. And hopefully Jordan Love is 100% ready to go. And then you kind of put the ball in his hands and hopefully they play from a lead from a Packers standpoint, that they play from a lead and maybe do some, maybe take some risks and take some shots. And the Packers, I think, are fine with it. I know they say they want to clean it up and you don't want to throw, lead the league damn near in interceptions. But look, that's Jordan Love having a ton of confidence in himself to make those throws, and he has made those throws. It's just at the end of the season, you don't want to look back on it and say, man, if we could have that interception back, So maybe they tell him to be a little bit smarter and don't make those plays. But I think it starts with Josh Jacobs. You open up the pass game and let Jordan Love cook a little bit.
Well, Kyle, Mike, go ahead.
So, yeah, real quick. So one big surprise on this Packers team for me has been Tucker Kraft.
Yeah.
Being in that locker room, are you kind of like, do you sense that chemistry with these quarterbacks and Tucker Kraft, or did you kind of see this one coming a little bit? Or
I don't know if I saw it coming, because Tucker Kraft, when he came out of college and he was a rookie, was like, okay, well, that's the blocking tight end. Luke Musgrave, the other draft pick of the tight end group. I thought he would be the one more involved in the passing game. And then it just was like every time you see Tucker Kraft each and every week this year, he has just gotten so much better. And you see one more element to his game that you didn't see in the week prior. The blocking, we knew. I didn't know that he can make a diving catch and with separation in the end zone. I didn't know he could, get that extra gear and, score in a little screen. I didn't know he could, do the things he's been doing. The yards after catch have been impressive. So it's come to a shock for me. I can't speak for everybody else because I didn't see him being this a part of the offense this year so early on. But hey, don't fix what's not broken,
Yeah, no, I agree. It just seems like that chemistry is just there. Like you can just, and I know a lot of that, I'm assuming, comes not on game day, in practice, in the locker room, just that chemistry you build with that player throughout practice. So it just seems that Tucker Kraft just came in hitting the ground running out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I don't know if they've done it this year yet, and maybe I should ask next week in the locker room. I was off today when Jordan Love spoke, but last year with them being the youngest team in the NFL and a bunch of rookies on the offense and Jordan Love becoming the leader of the team. I mean, Jordan had the team over to watch film and for dinner and whatnot to build that chemistry. So, Jordan Love has also had receivers come out to California and pass catchers come out to California. So that's the one thing that I've been really impressed about Jordan Love specifically is just how much that he's taken on that leadership role. And I think he saw maybe traits and things that Aaron Rodgers did that he didn't like, and maybe incorporated them into his own leadership style and said, okay, I want to lead this team this way. And he's really done a great job doing it.
Yeah,
so.
and he's a younger guy, right? He's only like 24.
I think Jordan's 26.
No, I'm sorry, Tucker Kraft.
Oh, yeah. Yep. He's around that age. I don't know off the top of my head.
Hey, Kyle, I know I said about 20 minutes. I did have one more question for you, if you don't mind.
Fire.
So we talked a lot about the Bears' weaknesses tonight. What is some area of this Green Bay team that if the Bears have a shot of keeping this game interesting and a prayer of potentially pulling out a victory, where is one area that they should look to try to attack during the game on Sunday?
Maybe have Caleb Williams roll out a little bit more and use his feet a little bit more. I don't know how much he's actually done this year, but the Packers pass rush has been very underwhelming, and they just traded Preston Smith. So now they're going to rely on a first rounder like Lucas Van Ness, who really hasn't impressed many people at all during his first 2 years in Green Bay. So the Packers are sending rush, maybe have Caleb step up in the pocket and get a few more extra yards and make the Packers chase after him a little bit. I'm not saying they should do that all game long, but if that's one area of weakness that I think the Bears could benefit, it's Caleb Williams' legs, because he can make a play that looks like nothing into something. He has that ability in him, and I think the Packers just have to be a little disciplined. But I will say, the Packers did play some really mobile quarterbacks this year, starting with Jalen Hurts, and you got Kyler Murray. So they've been disciplined in that sense, and they didn't let that hurt them during those games. But I think with this pass rush really not meeting anybody's expectations. I mean, Rashawn Gary's been silent ever since he's gotten a contract extension last year. I think you let Caleb Williams play a little bit more free, and I mean, for Bears fans, I'm sure you guys want to see Caleb play a little bit more free, and of course that O-line protecting for him. Right. But who knows, that O-line, I mean, Caleb was sacked 9 times last week, so like that O-line could make the Packers pass rush look like they're the second coming of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an anxiety-ridden Sunday. I always sit there till the very end, even if this game ends up being blown out of proportion, and just sit there in the suck and enjoy my Sunday. Kyle, it was great.
Hey, can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was really hype on this guy coming out of the draft. What are your guys' thoughts about Rome Odunze?
I personally love Rome. I think he's kind of in that same. I think he's still in that rookie wall where he's still trying to learn the system, learn the speed of the NFL, learn the speed of these DBs. But I think there's a real connection between Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams, and I think I would like Rome's route running to be a little more crisp and his hands to be a little bit better. But I think as he develops, I think you'll see more of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think Rome, to me, when the offense is scheming him properly, which has been an issue, he seems to be able to get the separation. Caleb feels comfortable. It looks like going to him. A lot of people thought maybe DJ Moore would be that guy initially, but I think Rome and Caleb's connection, as long as they can keep Caleb upright, we've seen flashes and glimpses of what that potential duo could be. And I think as long as, like I said, they're able to kind of make adjustments in this offense, I think Rome will shine out a little bit more towards the back half of the season.
Interesting. Yeah, I just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts. I was high on him out of the draft.
Yeah.
I watch every Bears game closely. So
yeah. Well, go ahead, Mike. One more.
Yeah. So I think Ace and I and our actual group in general are on the same page where every week we're screaming for Odunze and especially Cole Kmet to be more involved in this offense. We don't get it. We don't get why we don't see Cole Kmet at all. and then Roma Dunze will have 100 yards receiving and then barely gets targeted the next game. So it's frustrating, but like I think Ace nailed it on the head. As long as they're scheming them in the correct way, I think they could be very good playmakers for us.
Cool.
Now, Kyle, I appreciate you jumping on with us, man. We talked a couple weeks ago about you joining me, and why don't you let everybody know where they can find you, what you've been up to?
Yeah, for sure. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Kyle Malzahn, KYLEMALZHAN. Very active on Twitter. Instagram, you can follow me at Kyle Malzahn as well. And like I said, I'm a sports anchor reporter up in Green Bay working for the CBS affiliate television station. So covering anything from the Packers daily to anything Wisconsin, whether that's D3 college, D1, prep level, you name it. We got it covered. So appreciate y'all having me on. It's been a blast. And Ace, you're the man.
All right. Thanks, Kyle. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks,
Have a good
Kyle.
night.
Nice meeting you, Mike. Peace.
You too.
All right. Well,
that was good stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
that was real good stuff.
When I started this show, I always had this idea of like an eye on the enemy type of segment where if I could find somebody in each of the cities that worked in the NFC North, I would have liked to have somebody on. And, Kyle and I, we've known each other not real great in the beginning, but over the last few years, we've grown to know each other, talk sports all the time. I met him through my brother during COVID when my brother and I used to game all the time, and Kyle would be on there gaming with us. And then, he was he was at my brother's wedding, and we caught up and talked about, hey, Bears Packers play in a few weeks. You want to jump on? He said, absolutely. So I'm glad we were able to find time to make it work. A lot of stuff, man, in that little 20, 25 minute segment. You and I have had differing opinions on the state of the Bears recently. Not that that's a bad thing. I think that helps, because what I try to tell everybody when they watch this show or when we're in our chat is, I think more than one thing can be true. And I think a lot of times in sports, especially, you watch like the big national shows and it's always, well, this is the problem, or that is the reason they're winning, or this or that. And it's never like, well, it's more than just the sacks, right? More than just the bad play calling for the Bears, more than just Eberflus's situation, more than just what Ryan Poles has done. This Bears team coming off of the London game into the bye, I don't know if I've ever been riding higher for a Bears team.
Yeah.
And then something in that week off, whatever it was, whether it's the coaches, you hear rumblings of the coaches weren't, keeping people accountable and they weren't pushing these guys or whatever. It does kind of feel like this ship is on its way down with the Matt Eberflus situation.
You want to hear an interesting stat that I looked into today, and I was reading about this.
Yeah.
If you look at, I forget the exact line of coaches, I have to look it up again. But if you look back to the Jay Cutler days, they went and got Jay Cutler, right?
Yeah.
And then they fired, and then Lovie Smith didn't draft Jay Cutler, like he got Jay Cutler, right?
Right.
And then Jay Cutler moved on, and they drafted, I forget who was it. And was it Mitch after Jay Cutler?
Yeah, but I think they signed. No, yeah, it was Mitch right after Cutler.
So they had Mitch, but then they fired Lovie, and then Nagy came in. But Nagy didn't pick Mitch.
Yep.
He got Mitch, and then you move on from Mitch, and you go to Justin Fields. And when Eberflus got there, Justin Fields was already there, so he didn't draft Justin Fields. He got Justin Fields, and now we got Caleb Williams. It looks like Eberflus is probably out the door. So it's going to be another cycle where you're going to get another quarterback where the coach with a quarterback that he had no part in bringing into this team. I think it's a little different with Caleb, because I think everyone knows that Caleb is a very talented quarterback. He's more of a sure thing than those previous guys, but I just thought was a wild cycle that I just don't want to be a part of anymore. And buddy of mine told me today that the Hail Mary by the Commanders is the thing that upset him the most this season. And
yeah, I mean, that whole thing was just the situation right now with the Bears and that Hail Mary, and I know you and I have talked ad nauseum about it in our chat, is I feel like, especially as a defensive coordinator, my biggest issue with that whole situation wasn't the fact that they lost the game because of the Hail Mary. That it just wasn't. That happens. That's what it is.
Yeah, it was all the antics with it. Yeah,
right. It was the antics with the situation with Tyreek Stevenson. The not, you have timeouts. Why not use one? Or the play before the Hail Mary where you just give 13 yards to the receiver, and then you justify that by, oh well, we were just looking for the last play. We wanted to make sure that they didn't get over the top of us. Like, you can still do that and play defense on people. They do it the whole game.
Your message should have been knock the ball down before over the top of us.
Right.
But, and I know you and I know I made this point to you on our previous show. My buddy asked me if I agree with him, that if that's what I'm the most upset about this season. And you probably already know where I'm going with this, but the thing that I am most upset with this season is the way we played following that game. Because that told us right how that game, you and I were on pregame, and I told you if they come out flat this game, Flus needs to go. Yep. He just needs to go, because that was a devastating loss, but a good coach uses that as motivation to just punch your next opponent right in the throat. And it was a complete opposite. And that 100% comes down to coaching.
Yeah. And for me, I understood why they traded the first pick and didn't take a quarterback not last draft, but the draft before, right? You had Justin, he's going into his third year. Let's give him a shot, see if this can work with some pieces around him. It's not a lot of pieces, mind you, but a few. But with your coach, your GM has preached since he got here that he wanted to break the cycle of quarterback development, right? And it just doesn't make sense to me why you would go into an offseason with a head coach whose record was what it was. And I understand he kept the team together and all this stuff, and that's great. It's awesome. But you talked about lining up. Well, Justin just didn't line up with us. His contract was coming up and this and that. And then you go out and keep Flus, draft a quarterback, get an offensive coordinator in Shane Waldron, who all offseason you heard the rumblings from former players that were of his, especially Jackson Smith. Like, he said good luck in an interview to, I think it was with CHGO or something, where he said, they asked him what he thought about the Bears getting Shane Waldron, and he said good luck. Like, that's a red flag. And then I sent an article to the group from last year before Thanksgiving or right after Thanksgiving, when the Seahawks, they lost a game, and then Pete Carroll came out and publicly criticized the play calling of Shane Waldron. And I have a couple little nuggets from that I picked. They asked him, what can you do to get this offense back on track? And he said, where did it go? Right here. We have a lot of unique guys on this team, and we just need to make sure that we're putting them in position. What did we complain about the last 9 weeks? Right? Then another part, our tight ends can be used better than we've used them the last couple of weeks. We need to find a way to get that going. What have we been complaining about? Where's Cole Kmet? Right? And then it's just like, all I had to do was Google search Shane Waldron, and that was one of the top things that came up. Like,
and it's not hard. You even while you're watching the Bears games, you literally have these announcers just as confused as we are, saying, "I'm really shocked that Cole Kmet's not more a part of this offense."
Right?
Like, they're saying it on broadcast. They're saying the same thing. I mean, it's incredible how everyone in the world can see this, but you can't. And I hope that this is a good Bears offense that could produce. And it was someone that Waldron is just that bad, especially if all these players are saying that. And we just needed just a decent play caller. And maybe this our passing coordinator, he comes in and maybe he has stuff up his sleeve that lets us look like a good offense. But at the same time, before I say this, I agree Luke Getsy should have been fired. I agree Shane Waldron should have been fired. But the offense looked like trash last year. They fire Luke Getsy. The offense looks like trash this year. They fire Shane Waldron. Who's bringing in these OCs?
Matt Eberflus.
Why is he should be gone?
100%. You and I have been talking ad nauseum about this.
Two OCs in a year and a half that you brought to this team. At some point, the Bears just got to look and say, we have too much young talent on this roster to delay it at all for a guy that cannot develop these guys and get guys in line to develop these guys.
And now, unfortunately, because they made this move instead of firing Eberflus, I don't see there being a situation where they get rid of him, even if, unless the wheels fall completely off and you're getting blown out by the Packers, Vikings, and Lions in 3 weeks in a row, then there is no excuse to bring him back. You just can't do that, especially for the morale of your young quarterback.
So I think they fire him in the offseason, or I at least think they should. I'm going to probably be in the minority on this, where everyone wants Eberflus fired today. I want him to at least finish the season because, one, it'll show us if this Bears offense in the second half of the season looks like they did in the first half, we know he's a part of the problem.
Right.
But the biggest thing for me is Caleb. People are forgetting that Caleb Williams is still very young. He's a rookie, and he's probably already flustered and frustrated with his offense right now. And you have him under Shane Waldron and Eberflus. Now you're changing the OC. If you bring in another head coach who's probably going to be a temporary fill-in guy to the end of the year, same with the OC, maybe even two, to bring in a new head coach and possibly a new OC next year, like you're giving him 3 OCs and 3 head coaches before he started his second season.
Yeah.
I think that can overwhelm him a little bit. I think you just ride out this season and then make the appropriate adjustments going into next year.
And that's kind of what I think is going to end up happening. I was looking for a stat that I had read, and like I said, this goes far beyond just Matt Eberflus and even Ryan Poles. Like, this has been a continued situation with the Chicago Bears franchise for quite some time, especially when it comes to the turnover that they've had. I read a stat, and I'm looking for it right now, and I can't find it, but it's something crazy, like since 2006 or something like that. The last 12 years, the Bears have gone through 4 head coaches, I think 10 offensive play callers. Like, that's insane to me.
Yeah.
Like, how do you have any semblance of structure at all for your quarterback? And I get it. Cutler was in there, and they were getting rid of offensive coordinators every season with him because they were trying desperately to figure out something that worked. But I think a glaring issue is maybe the culture that is set in Chicago and with the Chicago Bears team is never going to change because the culture is above where the team is. I brought up the article that I had read about where Kevin Warren said, or somebody had asked Kevin Warren his thoughts on bringing in a previously established coach like Bill Belichick or Mike Vrabel. And the response was basically like, well, no, because we're not going to give a coach that much authority, which I get it. But also, you look at their hiring choices over the last few years. You passed on a guy like Bruce Arians because you didn't like the way he conducted himself for a guy in Mark Trestman. From there, you bring in John Fox. From there, you bring in Matt Nagy, the nice guy, right? And now you're on Matt Eberflus when you had guys like Dan Quinn who were in that coaching cycle. Last year, you had guys like Jim Harbaugh who was available to bring in, and you don't even talk to him. It really, to me, shines a light on the fact that the McCaskies are so worried about this cookie cutter portrayal that they have as an organization. And I understand wanting your organization to look a certain way, right? They did it with Hard Knocks too, where they wanted it to be more family friendly, and I get it. But like sometimes you need a guy that's going to go in there and get people's asses in line. And if you can't handle that,
it's no shock that we won the Super Bowl with a guy like Mike Ditka.
Right.
So,
and then you look around the league at good, successful teams, right? And look what most of them have in common. They have a head coach that doesn't take bullshit from people. Like Mike Tomlin, right? If you hold Mike Tomlin press conferences and Matt Eberflus press conferences next to each other, you'll pass out because of how wordy Matt Eberflus is and how just straight, direct, and forward and honest Mike Tomlin is.
I was just about to tell you, I just saw a clip. Because as you know, I follow a lot with the Steelers. So I saw a clip from last week's game. I forget the player and I forget what he did, but that's not the point. The player did something coming off on that play, and Tomlin is yelling at him before he's even off the field, like saying, like, "Hey, why didn't we do that? Why were we not there?" The guy gets off the field and he goes, "You're right," and he's looking down, and Tomlin's like, "I don't want to be told I'm right. Look at me in the eye," and like he really has that kind of mentality and that kind of attitude, and and yeah, I agree, and that's exactly what you need. And as you said, it's crazy when, as you alluded to, if you look at the last 10 years, we've had 4 head coaches: Trestman, Fox, Nagy, Eberflus. Since 2014, our offensive coordinators has been Aaron Kromer in 14, Adam Gase in 15, Dowell Leggins in 16 and 17, Helfrich in 18 and 19, Lazor in 20 and 21, Getzy in 22, 23, and now Shane Waldron, and now another one added to it.
And don't even forget when Matt Nagy fired Laser, called plays, and then fired himself because it wasn't working also in there.
Yeah.
Like it's not just at the coaching level at this point. It's the people that are selecting the people that are selecting the coaches, right? And I'm not saying that Ryan
That's why I want a guy like Ben Johnson, especially as he's under a guy like Dan Campbell. I think he will bring that mentality that you need to have on this team.
I agree.
Dan Campbell is a great coach. He's their best friend, but he's their worst enemy at the same time. Every single player on that team would tell you how much love and respect they have for him.
Yep.
And being under that tree for at least the last 2 seasons, getting a guy like Ben Johnson is going to bring that mentality. But Ben Johnson knows what he's doing too. So, I mean, he's going to bring in a good offensive-minded coach with him. He's not going to just bring in some schlab. He's going to bring in someone that knows what they're doing.
And he is the offensive mind.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's what I think people don't realize. Like, and I get it. We talked a lot about, well, they hired Matt Eberflus and they kept him, but what if the Bears hire this offensive coordinator and he's so good and then he leaves? Like, look where we're at. Like if you hire a guy like Ben Johnson, you're giving him the autonomy over the offense. He's going to be that guy. He makes the plays. He calls the plays. He's going to have your offense working in a way that it's supposed to look, an efficient NFL offense. Look at the Detroit Lions, right? They were, I believe, going into this past Sunday night game, the number 1 offense in the NFL.
I believe it.
Like, That's not just a hot name. He did it last year too. The
So
Lions offense looked good.
So I talked to a buddy of mine last night. I was on with him last night. He's a diehard Lions fan. And I was telling him that the Lions are a very good example of how to build a team. Because you have the Bears trying to say, oh, we need to go get, this stud wide receiver. We need to go get this really good defensive player. And then in the draft, they do the same thing. Look what the Lions did. And granted, and it wasn't, and the thing that's crazy about this is it was two different GMs that together built that offensive line, where their main focus was, we're just going to build the hell out of this offensive line, and we're going to put a lot of talent on there. And they went and spent money on a guy. They used a high draft pick to get a guy like Penei Sewell, and because of that offensive line, if anyone, whenever I tell people how bad the O-line is and how much that's holding back Caleb Williams, and people say, I'm so tired of hearing about the offensive line. If you don't think the offensive line is important, look at Monty on the Bears versus Monty on the Lions. It's two completely different running backs. It makes a huge difference, and it just seems like the Bears I feel like the Bears just always act like they can just get who they think are playmakers to make up. Oh, well, we got these playmakers. They'll get open, and we'll just, get them the ball. We'll be fine.
And I think they fell in love with that Patrick Mahomes comparison that Caleb was getting.
Yeah.
Because what was Mahomes able to do with a bad offensive line? Like, he was still able to produce, right? Patrick Mahomes is a completely different beast, had been playing in the NFL. Caleb is a rookie, not even a full season in. It feels like this offensive line, they were like, oh, well, it's okay. Look what Justin did with it.
Right.
Like, if Justin can do that, then why can't Caleb? Forgetting that a majority of the plays and games last year, Justin was running for his life. And that's the only reason that his rushing totals were so big. They weren't necessarily designed plays. He was running for his life and was able to keep the play going and get yards. Caleb isn't that kind of a quarterback.
Right. Well, and that's why I hate when people will send you I'm sure you've gotten a lot of them too, where they say their yards last year versus their yards this year. One, that is year 3 for Justin versus year 1 with Caleb. And 2, that's not his passing yards. That's because he, like you said, he ran for a mile. So that's also taking a part of his rushing yards as well. So yeah, I mean, that's why before the season started, you and Turtle told me you didn't think it was too quick to compare Caleb Williams to Mahomes. And I said, let's chill on that right now, because Mahomes is going to probably go down as one of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen play this game.
Right.
So I know there's been a lot of talk and comparison saying he's like that next Patrick Mahomes. But when you're going into a rookie season, and even if you want to compare, look, there's a lot of rookie quarterbacks that rookie season, they were not good. And then they took year 2. So, I mean, there is a chance that you guys are hit it on the head, and he is that Patrick Mahomes. And I'm coming into the draft, that. So I hope he is. I don't need him to be Patrick Mahomes. I just want an elite quarterback on our team and win football games. I don't need him to be the best in the NFL. I don't need him to be the best in NFL history. I just want a really good elite quarterback that when teams come in to play him, that's a guy they're worried about, not a guy that they're not worried about.
Right. That you have a confidence in your quarterback that no matter what the situation of the game is, he might be able to somehow figure out a way to win the game. You know what I mean? Instead of and I think a lot of this year for me, especially, has been, I'm a big history guy, right? I love history. It was my favorite class in school. And I think what makes it difficult, and why a lot of people say I'm just negative all the time about this Bears team. My dad is, you can never just enjoy a game. You can never just enjoy the team and blah, blah, blah.
He's not wrong.
And then, but then we get to a spot like we're in now. And it's like, I mean, was I wrong? No, it's the same cycle. It's the same team every year. So until they prove me wrong, why should I change that nonsense, that concept that, oh, let's look forward to this. Why? Because look what they've done. They've proven to us over at least the last 40 years since they won the Super Bowl in 85 that it's the same nonsense and the same bullshit every single year. And what's even more crazy to me is the fact that when you think it's going to get better, they somehow embarrass themselves even more.
Yeah.
And that's so frustrating as a fan. And trust me, people used to, oh, you just want Flus fired. No, man, like if I wish to God this team was 7-2 right now. And they've proven that there's some kind of misconnection between the head coach and the players right now, because if there wasn't, there would not be all this noise. Do you hear all this noise coming out of Green Bay? No. Did you hear all this noise coming out of Pittsburgh last year when they weren't doing well? No. You never hear shit like this in Kansas City. You don't hear stuff like this in Baltimore because the coaches keep the players accountable and in line. And that is the biggest red flag for me with this Matt Eberflus coaching regime. And I'm not saying it's as embarrassing as it was when Mark Trestman was the coach, but like there's been a lot of embarrassing moments throughout Matt Eberflus's 2.5 years as the Bears head coach.
Let me ask you something, and I don't mean to make it sound like a dumb question because I know when I say his name, I know how Bears fans feel about him, but think of this with an open mind. Would you say that Matt Nagy is a good offensive-minded coach? Because
no,
no, okay.
I mean, so I think he's competent. I don't think he wanted I don't think he wanted Mitch. So
my big question was going to be, if Matt Nagy was the coach of this Bears team, do you think it would be any different? I don't
know. I look at Kansas City's offense and they're not producing that well either right now.
This year, but last year they did.
Right. And
they're having lots of offensive line issues. And that's why, because like the way Mahomes, if you're going to use these comparisons, the way they're using Mahomes has looked good up until this year. Their offense, right. I know this year is off. So it just makes me
And now,
wonder.
Is this a year where Andy Reid was like, hey, man, we want to get you back in the spotlight for the coaching cycle that's coming up. I'm going to let you take the reins on this offense and you run the whole offense this year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's the difference is like with Andy Reid as the head coach, he's still in the ear of Matt Nagy when it comes to what plays or schemes he feels are going to work and this and that. And I think it's such a difficult question. And
so my answer is yes, but no. Where yes, I think our team would look better than they are now. I think with an offensive-minded guy as a head coach, I think we would look better than we do now. But at the same time, I think Matt Nagy still proved that he's a bad coach.
Yeah.
He's still not a guy I want on my team. A buddy asked me that earlier, and I told him I'd bring that up in our topic and that's what I told him. I'm like, would it be better than it is now? Yeah. That's not saying a whole lot though.
Right.
So
I just feel like a lot of these hot name offensive coordinators usually are hot 1 year, right? Like that's what happened with Nagy, right? Is the Chiefs were like super hot and he all of a sudden rose like, yo, this is the hot offensive coordinator. Let's go with him. Same thing with Shane Waldron. And what's even more crazy to me is the fact that like Shane Waldron's name had been brought up in head coaching conversations. He was a candidate to be a head coach for the Bears when they were talking about all that.
Right.
And
well, I was excited about Nagy because not only were we actually getting an offensive-minded coach for once, but he was coming from the Andy Reid umbrella, which I thought was huge. And then you see year one, and it really had like a Dan Campbell feel year one, where they had the club dub and they went to the
it was fun.
Yeah, like that team was rolling, and I feel like ever since that double doink game, it went downhill. It just like
Well, yeah. I was so fun story about that year. I was at the Lions game that season. I took my dad when Cody Parkey hit the upright 4 times in that game. 4 times in that game, he hit the upright. The Bears still won, but I remember me and my dad were on our way back, and I remember talking to him and being like that's kind of crazy, right? Like 4 times in one game, the same upright. Not even like there's something not wrong. And then we're watching that playoff game, me and my buddy, and I think the Bears were winning at halftime. And I told him, I go, man, if this comes down to Cody Parkey having to kick a field goal, he's gonna hit the upright, right? And the Bears will lose this game. No, you're freaking out for no reason. I was like, no, watch. No sooner does that shit happen, he turns to me and goes, I hate you. And I was like, you see these problems coming, right?
What makes me mad is he made the kick.
Yeah, but they called the timeout.
But the timeout was called.
Yep.
And technically, you were wrong because he did not hit the upright. He hit both uprights.
Both. You're right. So technically, I was wrong. I was right on that. He would cost the Bears the game, just not the right way of how he cost them. But I mean, and then look at like right now, right? Like we've seen all these breadcrumbs leading up to the point we're at right now with Matt Eberflus last year, right? You got to fire your defensive coordinator after the second game. Then 2 weeks later, your running backs coach has to get fired for the same problem. Then your offense is stale and stagnant. Nothing's happening. You fire him. Now you're on this guy. This guy's like, at some point, you had like Ryan Poles has to realize, like, dude, like this guy just can't do it.
So I know you and I didn't really get into it because I know I was swamped with work at the time, but I know you had kind of questions on Ryan Poles. And I agree with you and I disagree with you. And maybe I don't know what you're implying there, because I think he had some misses. And my biggest thing right now is that we used the OC as a scapegoat last year, and now we're doing the same thing again this year.
Yep.
And like he needs to just pull the reins. And like I know he likes Matt. I know Matt's his guy, but he has a whole city Chicago excited about this team right now, and he needs to let him go. So I do agree with you where there's things that he's doing that I don't like, but he's done a lot that I love. So I guess my whole thing is, and again, I'm not saying you're implying this, I don't know. I agree he needs to be better in some areas. Mm-hmm. With that said, I love him as our GM and do not want him to go as our GM.
So the way I phrased it in the group chat, it definitely came off more as I was ready to move on from Ryan Poles. Also, that's not the case. Okay. He has done good things for this organization. But if you just take a broad look at everything, right? From talking about, we want to break this cycle, and then the first thing you do when you have the opportunity to draft a quarterback number one is you keep a coach, knowing the history of the situations that have happened previously. Cool. His drafts haven't been great. Like he's had, and listen, no GM is going to be 100%. Most GMs don't even go 50%. I remember reading a stat that said, like, if you're a GM and you're swinging at 45%, you're considered a good GM. And that's cool. But the problem
was a good pick.
Which one?
Roshan.
Yeah. When they decide to use him, that's right. You know what I mean? But that's the other thing is,
but that's a good pick by him.
It is. And you got Brisker and you got Gordon, and I like those picks, but then there's other, right, Tyreek, and then there's other picks like right? Like you spent a 10th overall pick on this guy, and while I'm not saying he's a bust or not good, when you're going to draft an offensive lineman that high, this guy has to be the guy on your offensive line. Like there
So
can't be questions about that.
so I will say Brock Wright, if he ends up being a bust, I won't necessarily put on polls because everyone had Brock Wright
Right.
rated high. So I mean, I won't really put on him. I will put on him Nate Davis though.
Yeah, Nate Davis. And you sign this guy, and the first offseason he's on the team, he doesn't even go through it.
Yeah.
And this wasn't and then they release him today. Like all this
You,
stuff was all red flags. It didn't take till week 9 for us to realize that Nate Davis didn't want to play football for the Chicago Bears.
so it might have been Nate Davis, but I think it was Brock Wright, which I'm thinking could also be hurting his development. Didn't they like keep trying to rotate Brock Wright on the offensive line?
So the Bears try to rotate everybody on this offensive line. That was kind of
Well,
the
like,
thing with Poles, right? Was he liked finding those linemen that were
I thought he tried putting him
multi-versatile.
but I think it wasn't just like right guard to right tackle. Like I think it was like they tried putting him at center or left guard or something like that. Like I felt like they were trying to experience him in a completely position that I want to say center, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, I'm gonna look right now. So
I thought they tried doing something with Wright where they were trying to like make him into a position on the O line. And
yeah, so I know Darnell Wright, I'm reading his right now. He was able they moved him to a guard for a couple games last year. And I think I don't think he played center.
okay.
But like, okay, so I have a full list of his draft picks, and I'm not going to go through every single one, but I'm going to go through a few key ones to round 5. Okay, I don't think we need to go past round 5.
But doing that, also name his good ones.
Well, I'm going to name them all. Everyone from round 1 to round 5 that he's picked since 2022 when he got here.
Okay.
2022, he selected Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker in the 2nd round.
Good.
Velus Jones in the 3rd round.
Well,
Braxton Jones in the 5th round, and Dominique Robinson in the 5th round. Okay. I'm looking to see any if the other names are any. No. They drafted Trenton Gill in the 7th round that year. That's funny. That'll come back up later. Last year, Darnell Wright was the 1st round pick. Javon Dexter was a 2nd round pick who was playing pretty well until he got hurt.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick.
Tyreek Stevenson,
good pick.
Zach Pickens, I don't think he's really been an impact player on this team for drafting him in the 3rd round. You know what I mean? Like,
well, so like,
and then you had Roshan in the 4th, and then Tyler Scott in the 4th, and then you draft, and nobody else of really worth.
Guys like Roshan and Pickens. So like, I feel like I'm going to use kind of one of your sayings, where both can be true,
right?
Because I feel like they could just still been a good pick, but it doesn't look like they are, and that comes down to coaching not utilizing the players. But I don't think you can pin that on Ryan Poles because our coaching staff's not using Roshan Johnson properly.
Right, and you and I had just talked about this. Like, I think Roshan is a good player. They just don't want to let him do anything. And then you have this last draft, right? You had Caleb Williams, obviously, Roma Dunze, Karan Amagaji in the 3rd round, who, when he played, did not look great. Torrey Taylor, punter, which
I love that pick.
I mean, at this point, he's getting more use than Caleb is right now. But I still think that was kind of a cocky pick to take a punter. I understand that he was the best punter out there, but I still am a firm believer that they would have been able to creatively utilized some form of a package with their draft picks for this coming up draft and last year to put themselves back up earlier into the draft to look at offensive linemen. there's no shot you couldn't have figured something out to go up and get an offensive lineman.
But our punting game was so brutal, and Taylor is a guy that completely flips the field.
Right.
So I mean, and he's doing a hell of a job already, and it's his rookie year.
Right.
I don't hate that pick at all, because I feel like anything else you drafted in the 4th round, it would have still had question marks. We really didn't know.
And then also that doesn't even talk about the free agents that he's brought onto this team and the money that he spent on guys and didn't spend on guys, or the draft capital that they've used in trades to get guys on this team that are questionable. Like, the Carolina trade hopefully was the best trade in NFL history. And we talk about it for 20 years, how Caleb Williams is the best quarterback in Chicago Bears history. And he's led the Bears to multiple Super Bowls and blah, blah, blah. But also, like, yes, that is great. But other than that, and a few guys like Brisker and Gordon, there are some red flags. And I think a lot of people in the Chicago world, sports world and media, are kind of given due to pass when I think he should be held accountable as well. And another thing that's annoying about, well, maybe not annoying, but has frustrated me is, look what's happened these last 3 weeks. Where have you been? Like, all this stuff is happening. How do you not come out, especially after the trade deadline, like he does every year? He didn't. How do you come out, or how do you look at this team and not come out and try to help your head coach that you put all your faith in to settle the waters? And that's what leads me to think that they are going to move on from Eberflus at the end of this year. He seems like to be distancing himself from that situation.
Right. So I think you can make an argument of not making a trade if you're the Bears this year, because I think like their main focus needs to be O-line. And there's not many teams that have an O-lineman they're willing to just trade right now.
Right.
So my biggest thing, and it's a point you said, where spending the money where you should be spending it. You have all this cap space. I would be overpaying for linemen to make sure that you have a good O-line. And I said that to a buddy of mine. He's like, really? You're going to overpay for a lineman?
Absolutely.
When you have a franchise quarterback that's supposed to be the next big thing behind center, yes, you overpay 5 guys if they're studs to protect Caleb. Like, it's not hard. And then, like, next year, our first round, so we'll have our first round pick next year, and we're going to have an early second round pick, hopefully, with Carolina's pick. So,
and then our second round pick.
Yeah. So I would like to see in those first 3 picks of the draft, or the 2 rounds, to draft 2. I shouldn't say for sure, but I would like to see them draft 2 linemen. The first round for sure. I think the first one you can 100% find a really good lineman with that first round draft pick. The second round pick, if there's a guy that falls there, don't be scared to take him. Don't be scared to take 2 linemen in a row, because that's what we need. And our guy Foster signed Trey Smith. I 100% agree with that. I think that'd be a great signing. Put him in at right guard for us. I mean, it's stuff like that. Go and overpay for these guys that you can plug into your O-line.
And I agree with that 100%. And yes, I get it. You build your teams through the draft. Yes, 100%. And you don't want to just start throwing free agent money all over the place. But your biggest glaring need on this team is both lines. The defensive line had been playing better. I'll give you that. You and I had talked about this. But they're still missing. And you watched it against the New England Patriots. When Montez Sweat wasn't out there, the pass rush just is not the same. You need a guy that is able to be that fear factor. And imagine having both of those guys, Sweat and somebody else on the other side of the line. like, and you need offensive linemen. If you look at the offensive line right now, and I know Foster's watching, like, who on this offensive line except for Darnell Wright are you gonna really be like, I need to keep this guy?
So I'm at the point where why are we not seeing what Austin Booker can do?
Yeah.
Like, you just drafted right now when you're saying like that, the other side of the line, we're getting zero production. Why not put in Austin Booker and see what you can get out of him?
Exactly. You drafted him. A lot of people said you got lucky to get him where you got him. They had to go back into the 5th round to get him. So why not give dude some run time? What's the worst that happens?
Right,
and
exactly.
And Billings,
Exactly.
yeah, Billings is out too now because he's hurt. But
Which
you
that
have,
hurts because he was playing well.
yeah, he was playing really well. But yeah, Austin Booker, man, like maybe he's just too small right now, and that's what they're worried about. But like when I watched him play, and I'm no defensive line expert, but he seems to have the knack for getting in position to get past the lineman, and he has a knack to get himself close to the ball, right? And that's what you want in your defensive end, right? Is a guy that can gravitate towards the ball. Whether it's a run or a pass, he always seems to find himself in the vicinity of where the ball is, and I like that. Maybe next year is when they give him that opportunity to take the big step. I don't want this to be an offseason where they're like, oh, well, we didn't sign or we didn't go after a defensive end because we have Austin Booker and we have high hopes for him.
Yeah, if you didn't even try to see what you're going to get out of him, yeah, you can't come out next season and say something
right.
like
It's
that.
like the Cubs last year when they were talking, oh, well, our big free agent move was re-signing Cody Bellinger. Like, no, he was on the team. You saw what the team was with him there. Your free agent acquisition should have been something else. It's the same thing with this Bears team. You cannot stay status quo. And I don't think there's a problem with bringing guys in to challenge for positions. If Austin Booker doesn't make it, Austin Booker doesn't make it. If you get a guy in the 2nd round who plays better than Austin Booker, well, then guess what? That guy's playing. And you got lucky that you got Booker on the bench to come in if he gets hurt.
Yeah, because we saw that exact same thing happen with what's his name? What's that lineman that we kept for probably a year or two too long? Because
James Daniels.
No.
There's been so many offensive line.
No, he was like a bigger name.
Orlando something. No.
I'm gonna look it up.
I know Jason Peters was on the fishing boat, but it's the whole thing, and that's one thing, I know you and I kind of go back and forth a lot on a lot of things, and it's difficult to gauge tone and this and that in a text message or in an exchange like that. But
right.
A real big issue with this is the fact that if your players are asking, basically begging to be coached harder, was it Charles Leno?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't Leno. It was Kyle Long.
Oh yeah, Kyle Long, and he kept getting hurt all the time.
He kept getting hurt, and they wouldn't. And they did the same thing with Gabe Karimi right before him. They were just so convinced that was still the right draft pick that they refused to move on from him, and they refused to bring anybody to bring in for competition for that position because they were just sold that was the guy. And and it's to your point, like, I get you just drafted Austin Booker, but it doesn't hurt to bring in another edge rusher to challenge him because, one, if he's better than Booker, then either way you're improving that position, and two, it could motivate Booker to be a better player. It could maybe push Booker harder. Right. So
what's the problem having a trade option or a trade piece too? Look what the Patriots used to do all the time with quarterbacks. You had Tom Brady, you draft a quarterback, that guy kind of flashes here and there, you trade him away.
Right.
How many draft picks did the Patriots get for guys like Jimmy G and Jacoby Brissett Hoyer. You know what I mean? Like all these guys, they use them as trade pieces. And, you know, we've kind of hit past the hour mark that I like to normally go on. And it's just, it's the same stuff. You know, we're sitting here in a spot where we look at the game Sunday. And I know that you have a lot of hope. You've talked about it. And I never want the Bears to lose. And I will never pick the Packers over.
I have a lot of, what do you mean I have a lot of hope?
Like you have a lot of hope and optimism that the Bears might be able, or you want them to find a way to win, and as do I.
I think the Packers cover.
I think
I took a bet on Tuesday, and that's why I was confused by those comments when people were saying I only picked the Bears. I'm like, no, I didn't. I posted a play yesterday picking Packers -6.5.
Yeah.
Because and like you just got crushed by Arizona and the Patriots that both just beat you by 7 or more.
Yeah.
If they're going to beat you by 7,
and you didn't throw a touchdown in either of those games.
Yeah. So
you didn't score a touchdown in either of those games.
So
not even throw one.
Before we do log off, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
So you have this Hail Mary letdown.
Mm-hmm.
You come out the next week, you have another massive letdown for 4 quarters against the Patriots. Now you just lost your offensive coordinator. Now you're having this drama saying, I heard players coming out wanting Bajan. Those players coming back out saying, nope, that's not true. If you're Eberflus right now, because maybe, you know, Waldron was the thing that was holding this offense and this team back. But do you think like this is another chance for Eberflus to overcome all this stuff? And if he comes out and because my fear is I want Ben Johnson no matter what next year. But my fear is that Eberflus is going to come out and say they somehow beat the Packers.
Yeah.
Well, we finally got a guy that can beat Green Bay.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
So it's just like, but if you're Eberflus, my question to you is if you're Eberflus this week, what is your message to the team to prepare them to beat the Packers? Like, all this stuff going on. What are you hoping he's doing this week in practice to get this team ready?
So if I'm Matt Eberflus and have a semblance of common sense in my brain, I'm going to the new OC and I'm saying, cut the playbook in half. Let's sit down. What do we do well? What do we not do well at all? Whatever we're not doing well, why is it even on the play? Why is it even in the game plan? Get rid of it. If that gives you 20 plays passing and 15 running plays, then that's what it does. And you figure out a way to line your guys up. Right. Because one thing I will say about Caleb Williams, and I know a lot of people are, oh, well, look at Jaden Daniels and look at these other guys. They're playing so much better. If you watch those offenses, they're very simplified offenses. They've been dumbed down for these quarterbacks, and they're playing with an offense that is simple, easy for them to understand. And I think the Bears fell into this trap where they're like, oh, well, Caleb's a smart dude. He's been bred for this. Like, let's just give him the whole playbook and see what happens. And I think any quarterback needs time to learn a new offense. But when you're a rookie trying to adjust the speed of the NFL, and then you're just thrusted a giant menu of plays, I feel like it's difficult for you to get everything correct. So I would go to him. I'd say, listen, you and Caleb, y'all need to talk, because Caleb said that today that they really don't talk. Yeah, it's crazy. Your passing game coordinator and your quarterback don't talk. What are we doing? But I'd sit down with both of them, figure out a simple game plan that both are comfortable with. Not just Caleb, not just him. Like, both these guys have to be in sync for an offense to run. Then I would say, hey, man, how about we use our power back in power back situations? I like DeAndre Swift. I think he's good. Sometimes I think he doesn't hit the hole correctly and gets lucky with a lot of his big yard runs because he just wiggles his way out of trouble that he creates. Use Cole Kmet. It's been proven when you utilize Cole Kmet in the offense, the Bears have a better chance of winning the game. Like, those are the three things that I would tell him to do. Simplify the offense with Caleb, utilize your running backs better, and figure out a way to get Cole Kmet involved.
Yeah,
but I did want to make a comment on what you said about, like, that you're worried that if somehow they find a way to beat Green Bay and go and kind of turn things around, that, you know, Flus might get another opportunity to stay. If I shoot myself in the foot, right, and I bleed all over the house, but I go and I get it wrapped up, and I'm like, oh, look, I wrapped it up. I'm okay now. Like, don't give me credit because I fixed my own wound. You know what I mean? Like, if you're doing self-inflicting things and you're putting yourself in these situations, nobody in the outside is putting the team where it is right now. This is all the coach. Do not give him credit for fixing a problem that he created. That's what I would do if I was the GM.
Right. But can you make an argument that, because you can learn from your mistakes. So you might not never do that again. You might not shoot yourself in the foot.
But we saw these same problems last year with Flus. He had to rally the team last year because of situation.
But if you remember, that was under Luke Getsy who got fired, and they looked better after Getsy got fired.
Right. And then I go to him and be like, okay, well, yeah, you turn it all around. Luke Getsy got fired. Cool. You brought in this guy. It looked like shit. You fired this guy. It got better. I'm like, I'm not on this hamster wheel with you anymore. Well, you proved that you couldn't do it. That's what my hope is with where this is going to go.
Yeah, if I'm Eberflus, I think what I'm doing is I'm addressing this team, and I will just let them know that we have a chance to play the Green Bay Packers and beat them, something that we have not done in so long. And if you do that, you immediately won this city back. If you beat Green Bay, your season can start over. And if you win, also if you win this game, you're like, it's not to say that the wild card spot is out of question. You're kind of still somewhat back in that. You're
100% right. That's the shitty part. Now, Meatball Angelo aside here, because that guy likes to play a lot on this show. Meatball Angelo is he drinks that Kool-Aid, but logical, unbiased ace. I see maybe a 5% chance that the Bears are able to pull this off on Sunday. Maybe
100%. I don't see them winning this game at all. But I think Kyle did make a good point where the Packers' weakness is their D-line.
Right.
If the Bears want them to have any weakness anywhere, it's literally there, because that helps our offensive line struggles. That gives Caleb a little more time. And he made another good point where he said you can't really look at the tape on the Bears this week.
Right.
It
is going to be the same playbook. It's just going to be called differently. So, like,
we won't see bubble screens on 3rd and 3.
I fucking pray. Yeah, they go 6 yards backwards. I don't understand.
Like, if you want to, I don't care if you do that on 2nd and 3 to a guy like DJ Moore. Yeah. But I would talk to everyone. Like, everyone's saying who's playing well, who's playing bad. I would address the team saying, like, so many things. Just, we're not pointing fingers. Like, because if you think about it, on that bubble screen, as bad as that call was, if Keenan Allen just makes a block, it's a first down. Instead, he's looking backwards, all confused, what's going on, and the guy he was supposed to block came and made the tackle. You know, if you're Caleb Williams, you need, and I get it's part of learning it, and maybe it comes down to the system and play calling, and maybe it even comes down to coaching. This isn't college football. We cannot throw the ball deep just for the hell of it. If you have an easy check down guy, use your check down. And a big part of that could be that Cole Kmet is really big in the check down department for us, and we're using him as offensive line help more than we're using him as a receiver. So, I mean, you need to utilize that a little more. I don't think there's one Taylor, our punter. He's the only guy that can say I'm doing my job correctly.
Yeah.
Everyone else needs to be better.
Now, I have one question before we log out here.
Yeah.
Hard Knocks was this huge thing that everybody was so excited about, and I know I'm kind of going backwards. But Keenan Allen today was asked why he thought it didn't work with Shane Waldron, and his response was basically, he said, I would say just probably he was too nice of a guy. I think during OTA's training camp, he kind of fell into a trap, letting things go, not holding people accountable. Obviously, those things lead to a slippery slope. Do you think that was the case because Hard Knocks was filming the majority of their training camp, and they all kind of got lost in this? Well, we want to make sure that we're these nice guys, cookie cutter type of vibe, and we want to just kind of be a happy-go-lucky team.
No, because I feel like we saw that same Shane Waldron every week this season.
Yeah.
Where Caleb it'd be like 3rd and 4, and there would be, DeAndre Swift or someone an easy check down 5 yards away, wide open, and he'd try throwing a corner route 20 yards downfield to a Dunze instead of taking a wide open first down.
Right.
He would walk to the field, and the Dunze would just, give him a little high five and a little tap on the butt, and he kept walking. Why aren't you saying something to him there? Why aren't you telling him, Caleb, you had a check down there?
Yeah.
When you're Keenan Allen and you just purposely don't block a guy and you look completely confused and lost, and you're walking past him and you just give him a little handshake as he walks by you. Did you not just see he just completely ignored a block? A veteran on this team didn't why are you not saying something to him? So I think Keenan Allen's comments are 100% correct. I don't think it was from Hard Knocks. If he did it during Hard Knocks, but then we saw him being hard on him the rest of the year,
right,
I would say maybe. But he's been this too nice of a guy all year long. And
right.
if you ask any NFL player, they don't want you to be nice.
Right. Every good player wants to be coached correctly.
Right.
That's all you hear. Michael liked being coached hard. Kobe liked being coached hard. LeBron likes good players want to be coached. They want to be taught. They want not even taught, but they just want to be pushed because that's in them. You know what I mean? And if you're 100%. Not a guy that can do that, you're going to lose the locker room. And that's exactly what ended up happening.
Packers suck.
Packers suck.
It was like I forget who it was from the 85 Bears. I want to feel like it was Walter Payton who said it. And they asked him, what made you play so great every single game? And his response was, because I had to.
Yeah.
Coach Ditka told it, if we didn't, we were hearing about it. If we didn't, we were running laps. If we didn't, he went on a list of stuff that if they didn't. He's like, I had no choice but to go out there and play great that day or else. And that's the kind of mentality that you need to have. Mm-hmm. And I loved Hard Knocks, but the thing I hated about Hard Knocks was it really showed me the side of Eberflus. And I'm like, this guy is soft. It just gave that image. I'm like I love the show, but I hated what I learned about our coach, where I just felt like, wow, he's pretty soft. Just watch how the Lions Hard Knocks started out with Dan Campbell and watch how the Bears Hard Knocks started out with Eberflus. It's completely two different tones. It's two completely different messages. And it speaks volume to how different of coaches we have. And, it's Packers week. We always get hyped for this game. I'm optimistic. I'm gonna always believe in this team to find a way to win. But again, like you said, if I'm putting my Bears Phantom card aside on bias, it's like in my Discord, man. I told everyone from the start in that Discord, I will never post a bet with my heart. I'm gonna always post a bet that I think are the best plays out there for people to make money on. And that's why I posted Packers -6.5, because I really feel that's what happens this game. Now,
now I got to tell you, Meathead Angelo and Ace is back, and I got the Bears coming out, new OC. We got these weapons, and Flus is fighting for his job, and I think the Flus gets loose, and the Bears come out and win 36-14. Just kidding.
right.
That's not
Well,
true.
I was kind of with you to your score prediction, but like everything you said, I don't think was a meathead response.
Right.
I think it's something that we've been talking about this whole show. I think those are absolutely the keys to victory to win this game. I think any team can win any game, right? Like the Broncos just almost beat the Chiefs. No one would have expected. The Patriots, not only did they beat the Bears that no one expected, don't forget that same Patriots beat the Bengals that no one expected them to beat. So, I mean, like it always can happen, but like if you're gonna beat the Packers, it's gonna have to be utilizing Caleb correctly. And what Kyle said, I 100% agreed with. You and I've been saying this for weeks now. Or get him out of the pocket. What's the best thing you can do to help a bad offensive line? Extend the play, roll to the outside, give him a little more time. The one thing that I hated that they did, because it's like, okay, I want you to do that, but the way they did it last week, I hate the run or the pass and then the direct run to the sideline. I don't like that because you immediately just cut off that left.
You're talking about the play. I think they did it twice last week where the whole offensive line just goes that way and there's no movement, no running back, nothing. The O-line just all to go that way, and Caleb got blown up, I'm pretty sure, twice.
No. So Caleb took a snap. He took the snap and immediately ran straight to the right sideline.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I know what the play is.
And as soon as he did that, he stopped, and I think he threw it away or something, because when he did that, if you look at the replay, their entire defense ran with him.
Right.
So you just cut the field in half. You only have that right side, and the entire defense went with you. So, like, I do want him to roll out, but not like that. Like, do like a play action boot. Keep the defense off balance. If you're going to take a pass and just run a beeline to the sideline, that's tricking nobody. They're just going to run with you. So, like, you just got to find a way to extend plays, move the chains, and the biggest thing is don't exhaust your defense, man. Like, stop with these 3 and outs, establish some drives, and give your defense a break. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a long game. I do think the Packers cover their spread, which, you want to know what's crazy is it started out at -6.5. It has actually moved to -5.5. Why it went down, I have no idea.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. It's
I feel like no matter how bad the Bears and Packers ever are, they're always great games. So just stay in the game to the end. If you can just stay in the game to the end, you give yourself a chance to win.
My only hope with this game, the only hope that I have holding on to going into it, is that we have watched, granted against poor defenses, we've watched Caleb and this offense look good, right? Yep. So it's in there somewhere. It's in there. Now it's up to this new OC.
You want to know what's funny?
Shuffle some shit around and figure out where it went.
You want to know what's funny? Look at those games where we saw that happen. Cole Kmet had big games.
Right. Yeah, we talked about it on this show just now. Yep. You know, when Cole's involved, the offense runs better. And the Bears, it's so frustrating at times because, like, I want to hold on to this hope, right? But then in the same breath, there's also a part of me that's like, if they didn't win another game the rest of the year, would I be surprised? No. The way they looked last week, putting up 3 points in a game against that defense, like, that's an opportunity for you to not win another game. But, you know, we could keep going around.
what happens if the Bears come out and win this game, right?
Yeah.
And then they win next week, and then they come out on a short week and beat the Lions on Thanksgiving.
If that happens, I don't want to look crazy here because the odds are got to be astronomical. But my luck, I'll say something nuts like I'll shave my eyebrows off my face, and then the Bears will end up doing it, and then I'll be even more mad. I don't know, man. If they can somehow figure out a way to beat all three of those teams and the offense looks good, then maybe they found their offensive coordinator. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Can you imagine, though, as bad as it looks, if that happens, people are going to be saying, and all of a sudden the Bears are 3-0 against the NFC North.
Oh, God. So that's the problem, though. You just can't win with this team. You can't win it, and you just lose. Even the good scenarios lose in that situation.
So you know what, though? You know what's crazy is I honestly would not be shocked if it happens. And so I know this is going to sound like a meathead comment. I promise you it's not. But I think the Packers are overrated. I don't think they are as good as people draw them out to be. I think this is going to be a very hard game for you to win because of everything that's happening this week. But same thing with Minnesota. I think Minnesota is overrated. I think if you watch their last few games, you can see that they are not as good as they looked like they were in the beginning of the season. That's a winnable game. And then you come against Detroit, where did you know that Detroit is like actually not like if you look at the total yardage in their games, like the teams are putting up more yards a game than the Lions are. They're just getting these like big plays or big breaks in the games that help. But
that's what makes them such a good team because great teams are able to find those breaks.
If
you know what I mean?
doesn't miss those 2 kicks, the Texans win. We're not even talking about this Lions win. And the Lions are historically bad on Thanksgiving.
That's true. And I have to tread lightly here. There's somebody I know who's a diehard Lions fan and don't want to step on any toes. But would I be so happy on Thanksgiving if the Bears found a way to beat the Lions? Absolutely.
I can make an argument why they can each win every one of these games. Do I think they will? Probably not. I think you lose this week. But if you win this week, that has to be a huge motivational boost. And then you go into Minnesota. That's a game that you can win. If that happens, you're 2-0 versus the NFC North with nothing but momentum against the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving.
Right.
Where so much can change. So I'm not saying I think it's going to happen. I'm not trying to sound like a meatball at all.
No, I get what you're saying. Like any given Sunday, right? That's the old adage that people use all the time. And
if you're Eberflus, if you want it to be different, it starts this week. Then be different. Go out and beat Green Bay.
Yeah.
Like,
you know why? Why he needs to beat Green Bay?
Packers suck.
Because the Packers suck. All right. I want to thank all the people in the chat and everybody who watched because we've had a lot of people watching, and I appreciate you sticking with us for an hour and 37 minutes of a lot of Bears. But to be fair, we were gone for 2 weeks. There's been a lot of chaos. I think we needed this Bears therapy session to kind of get everybody just back down to earth a little bit on the Chicago Bears team. But thank you all for watching. Comments were great. Make sure you go and like, subscribe, follow everybody that is in the USN is on Facebook. Go find us. We have our USN page on Facebook. We are on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it nowadays. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. Mike's got his Discord. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Let's fingers crossed that we don't get embarrassed. And maybe we get lucky and the Bears find a way to win. And maybe my Sunday won't be so bad. Mike, thank you for jumping on with me. I know we weren't planning on going an hour and 40 minutes, but it's always great talking Bears. And we will see you guys all either later this week or into next week. You guys have a good night.
I'm undefeated. I came to fight for the love of run home.